Transport.
Hello name nerds, my name is Patrick and welcome to Fun with First Names, where each week we look into the meaning, origin and some extra fun facts behind one specific first name. And this week we aren't actually looking at one specific surname, because this week we're looking at the names Hansel and Gretel. Yeah, I'm doing two, I can do what I want I suppose. But before we begin, I want to say thank you to one Christopher who became a patron in the most recent week. Now Patreon is the best way to help support Name Explained. $1 a month over on Patreon gets you exclusive content, ad-free videos and a chance to have a say in what names get explained here on the channel. So please do consider becoming a patron if you can afford to, if you want to. Link down below, patreon.com/Name Explained. Thank you very much. But anyway, on with today's names of Hansel and Gretel. And of course, the names Hansel and Gretel are deeply linked with one particular story, that being the legendary folk story, fairy tale, that's what I'm looking for, of the same name, Hansel and Gretel. You know the thing, Hansel and Gretel, two little kids lost in the wood, gingerbread house, witch tries to eat them, they escape. You know the deal. I'll be shocked if you don't. If you don't know Hansel and Gretel, that's fine, maybe your culture or whatever doesn't have it, or maybe you just don't care. That's cool too. This was one of the many fairy tales written by the brothers Grimm. Well, I say wrote it, they didn't come up with the initial story. These were two German brothers who wanted to keep track of all those sort of oral, spoken, traditional Germanic stories that they'd heard over their lives, because these stories were dying. I believe this was during the Napoleonic Wars, and like a French influence was coming over Germany, and they wanted to make sure that these sort of German traditions held up. So they wanted to actually write down all these sort of stories they knew about, and Hansel and Gretel was either one of these stories or an amalgamation of sorts of different Germanic fairy tales, but they were the ones who basically made it the story it is today. Well, not quite. If you know about the Grimm brothers, their versions of fairy tales are a lot more morbid than the ones we know of today, like the Disney versions. And Hansel and Gretel, even the modern version, is still pretty grim. That witch was going to eat those children. That's not good. That's cannibalism. That's not on. Though, why are these kids called Hansel and Gretel? Well, we don't know, unfortunately. These, I imagine, were probably just popular Germanic names at the time, so they just went with them, like these sort of little kiddie names. In fact, spoiler alert, these are diminutive forms of other popular Germanic names, as we'll see in a moment. So kind of cutesy little names for some cute little kids, I suppose. Though these kids didn't always have those names. Initially, in the initial version of the story written by the brothers Grimm, they were called Little Brother and Little Sister. So not the most different names, I suppose. I was going to call this video, what were Hansel and Gretel's original names? But I felt that would be a bit of a cop-out, even for my standards. But yeah, I didn't go with that. But now you know. Though regardless, this fairy tale went on to become a classic, and now the names Hansel and Gretel are known all around the world, and they're primarily known as the name of those two little kids. When you hear the name Hansel, when you hear the name Gretel, Hansel and Gretel the fairy tale comes to mind first for most people, I imagine. And that's made these names have a sort of folksy woodland fairy tale image to them. Though, what I like most about these names is despite how enchanted and magical they might seem to us now, when we look into their meanings and kind of translate them into English, they're actually pretty dull and mundane. They're like some of the most boring, bland names you could think of, and I find that really funny. Let's start with that name of Gretel. Now, Gretel is just a diminutive form of the Germanic name Gleet, and the Gleet unto itself is the diminutive / nickname of the name Margaret. Yeah, Gretel is basically just the name Margaret, but 2 steps removed or so. Remember I did that video recently about how the name Peggy comes from Margaret, and I said how many nicknames the name Margaret has? Gretel is just another one of those. Yeah, I probably should have mentioned that there, but that's just a testament to how many names Margaret has made, and that's pretty cool. And Hansel is no different too. Hansel is just the diminutive form of the German name Hans, and then Hans is just a shortening of the name Johann or Johannes, and of course that's just the Germanic form of the name John. So yeah, Hansel is basically just called John instead, which I didn't expect going into this video, but here we are. So while Hansel and Gretel might sound like a pretty uncommon pairing of names, John and Margaret aren't quite as uncommon. Like, I love the fact these two are basically just called John and Margaret. That doesn't sound like the name of two little kids lost in a magical forest. John and Margaret sounds like the name of like a middle-aged couple you from Hull you meet on your like Greek all-inclusive package holiday. John and Margaret, I love that. If you're John and Margaret watching this video, I'm really sorry I've not thrown your names under the bus. I just think it's really fun that these sort of magical, mischievous children are just called John and Margaret. I find that really funny, and I structured this whole video around that fact. Thank you. Thank you for letting me do this. Though suffice to say, the name Hansel or Gretel aren't particularly popular in the US or the UK. I don't believe they're in the top 1,000 names in either country. Are they popular names in Germany? Potentially. I couldn't find the German stats. I normally know where to find the American English ones for, but I couldn't find them for Germany, I'm afraid. If you're German and know a Hansel or Gretel, let me know down below, but I couldn't find much research on it, I'm afraid. A famous Hansel I found was one Hansel Zapata. He is a Colombian footballer. And a famous Gretel I found was one Gretel Beretta, an Australian netball player. And what was interesting was, looking at the name Gretel and famous Gretels, there were a handful, I say a handful, maybe 2 or 3, called Greta from Australia. And I'm like, huh. The name Greta clearly has picked up momentum in Australia of all places. If you're an Australian Gretel, let me know. I'd love to know how that name arrived in the shores who made it popular, I wonder. But anyway, that's more than enough about the names Hansel and Gretel. But what are your thoughts on these names? Do you like them? Do you dislike them? Do you know anyone with the names Hansel and Gretel? Are you called Hansel or Gretel yourself? Let me know down in the comments below. And of course, I just want to share some thoughts of you guys on last week's name of Amber. Half-I said, in the books His Dark Materials, which is about many different worlds, in at least one world the name for electricity is a bit different. It's called Ambaric Energy, with Ambaric deriving from amber. How cool is that? So Philip Pullman, he did His Dark Materials series. Northern Lights trilogy, I think they're also known as, or the first one. The really crap film's called The Golden Compass. I haven't read the books. He's doing the Belle Sauvage series at the moment, because that's it at the moment. He's a great fantasy writer here from the UK. His books are very celebrated. I've actually read them myself. I really watched the films and the TV series. But yeah, he's a very, very clever person. And that use of ambaric energy from amber to create electricity, very clever. Good wordplay, Philip. You've done good. Furman Tanava said, I was surprised to learn that amber has nothing to do with ember, even though ember can shimmer in amberly light. That's a really good point. Yeah, ember and amber sound very similar to one another, but there's actually no connection between the two. There's actually a 1-letter difference, but no etymological root. Like, that's just how language works sometimes. And Haven Lady said, sad fact, Amber Alert is named after a young girl who was kidnapped and murdered in the 90s. Like her namesake, the alert will live on forever to save other children. That is an incredibly sad fact, and it's a true fact. I looked into this myself. There was a young girl called Amber who went missing, and now Amber Alert refers to all missing child cases in just the USA, I believe. It's really sad, and it's true. Like, that has all the potential to be like a fake etymology. It sounds so like, because like Amber Alert could be like a red alert, green alert, that sort of thing. So it sounds like it should exist anyway, and someone's made this story around it. But no, that is the truth. It's not a folk etymology, despite how much it sounds like one, and it's a really sad story as well. Thinking of you, Amber, who went missing, and hopefully your namesake lives on, like I said, to help save other children. Go suggest some names down in the comments below, and I'll pick 3 of those to be put into a poll exclusively for my patrons to vote on. And then the name that wins that poll will be covered in the next Fun with First Names video. So if you enjoy the channel, want to help support it, and have a say in what names we'll explain, like I said at the beginning, guys, please do consider supporting on Patreon. Patreon helps out in the best way possible. It means I don't have to stress about ad revenue. It means I can just make videos I want to make, specific about videos that'll get the clicks, because with Patreon, it doesn't affect, I don't have to worry about that sort of stuff. I need to make the videos I want to make and the videos you guys want to see. I don't have to make, you get the idea. Just go support me on Patreon if you want to. If you can afford to, that'd be amazing. If you can't afford to and don't want to, that's fine. You're not missing any extra videos, just some extra sort of content is there for you if you like it. Anyway, that's more than enough for myself. Don't forget to go follow me on Instagram, my Name Explain YT, and don't forget to go join the Facebook group, Friends of Name Explain. Okay guys, take care. This was one of the Mary fairy tales, and a chance to say what, and Hansel. Ooh. Hansel and Gretel. But what are your thoughts on this neat? My patrons to vote on. Then the winner of that poll. Scratching play, sorry. I should actually go on a course about how to actually be a good influencer. But I don't.